Hello, I'm Scott Cherry, editor of TowandTowheed.com and a non-traditional student at the University of Michigan in Dearborn. This is part 2 of a series on the truthfulness of the four Gospels. This segment and the next, I will present 20 reasons you should have confidence in the Gospels. If the writers of the Gospels gave us true history, Jesus was not only a good man, but the ideal man. He claimed to have eternal origins and the very authority of God himself. But that is precisely the all-important question. Did they tell us the truth? Are the Gospels true? Did they really give us an historical account of this Jesus upon whom Christianity is founded? Are the Gospels good history, or are they only mythology or historical fiction? Skeptics like Dr. Scott DeGregorio ascribe to the latter view, as do other scholars such as Bart Ehrman of UNC Chapel Hill. But in the opposing corner, a host of PhD scholars such as Dr. Dan Wallace confidently assert that the Gospels are true history and present an accurate account of the risen Jesus, who claimed to be the prophesied Messiah, Savior, and Lord. Reason number 1. The portrait of Jesus given in the New Testament's four Gospels, the Acts, and the letters is principally historical and can be reasonably analyzed and substantiated through an historical lens. Reason 2. A predominant reason that non-Muslim people reject the Gospel's portrait of Jesus is due to a presupposition against miracles and the supernatural. For Muslims, it's mainly the crucifixion. This position is biased intellectually and historically, but it requires a different argument. Reason number 3. There is enormous historical consensus that Jesus was crucified. In general, only Muslims reject this fact, but not mainly for historical reasons. Reason 4. The crucifixion of Jesus was consistent with Old Testament theology and the messianic motif. His suffering and death, for example. Reason 5. This fact invites belief in other notable qualities ascribed to him in the Old Testament. For example, his divinity and kingship. The Hebrew Scriptures, that is, the Old Testament and the Tanakh, create an unmistakable Messiah motif or profile that expects and enjoins someone in the future with those qualities to fill. Reason 6. Many Jewish men besides Jesus were crucified for rebellion in Roman Palestine. Why would the Christian community pick this particular executed man to promulgate? It was due to his additional qualities and deeds, that is, his messianic consistencies and fulfillments. Jesus fit the profile that no one else ever had or would. Reason 7. Not only did the gospel writers affirm these qualities, but also did Paul the apostle, although he resisted those conclusions at first. Paul testified to Jesus' crucifixion as a fact of history, and very few, except Muslims, disbelieve him on this score. Why did he pick this Jesus to promulgate, and why was it possible? It was due to Jesus' coherence with the messianic motif, as well as Paul's dramatic vision of the risen Jesus. Reason 8. After Paul's conversion, in one sense, he had only to connect the Old Testament's messianic dots to match Jesus with the prevalent Old Testament profile. As a latecomer, that's what he did, and so did the other New Testament writers. Except for the death and the resurrection, it was an easy match. In his letters, Reason 9, that generally predate the four Gospels, Paul testifies to Jesus' resurrection, thus corroborating it as a historical event in the Gospels. In the next part, I'll continue with reasons 11 through 20.